Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here today. And hi, everybody. Before we dive into my presentation, I'd love to get a quick pulse check using the chat, probably to warm up those fingers a bit. So drop a plus sign in the chat if you can recall yourself sitting through some online training that felt really longer than it needed to be. Just like you felt it that way. I'm guessing many of you have had this experience. I certainly have lots of times. And I see the chat lights up. Thank you so much. And now the next step, drop a yes. If you can remember the, let's say, 3 key take points from that training right now. Can you remember anything? Not a lot of yeses there. And that's exactly the point. And that's why I'm here today, and you actually. Behind my titles, I'm someone who spent years in the trenches with learning teams. I've seen firsthand the difference between training that really looks impressive on paper and learning that actually changes what people do in their daily work and life. And through all that experience, I've discovered something important. Learning does not fail because people are unmotivated or disinterested. In many times, and let me know if you agree with me, it fails because we design for ideal scenarios instead of our real life. Just think about it. We so often create really beautiful, let's say, 45-minute modules, carefully designed slides, interactive elements, you name it. Meanwhile, our learners are sometimes just desperately clicking through as fast as they can, and they just help to reach that certificate of completion screen and probably get back to the actual work. And I bet many of you have found yourself mentally working on something else entirely while clicking that next button during some online training. If that's you, drop a guilty in the chat. If you're pretending it's not you, don't worry, your secret's safe. But just let's be real, that next rhythm is all too familiar. And the science actually totally backs this up. There's this thing called the forgetting curve, where up to 70% of what we learn disappears in a day if that's not reinforced or applied. 70%. That's a huge number. That's like taking really so many efforts, so many resources, your training budget, and just watching it vanish into thin air. So during my session today, I wanted to show you a different approach. I wanted to show you microlearning that's actually designed to stick. When I talk about microlearning, I do it regularly with teams across different organizations, from corporate spaces, nonprofits, to educational institutions. And the thing I noticed, they all have different versions and interpretations of what microlearning really means. Many people think microlearning is something about making things shorter, like taking what we already have, what we already do, and shrinking it down. But effective microlearning is built differently right from the start. You can think, for example, of traditional training as some long, let's say, 3-course meal. You sit down, you commit the time, you work through it step by step, right? But when it comes to microlearning, It's more like an energy shot. You don't take it for the experience itself. You take it because it delivers exactly what you need when you need it. So if I were to drop a definition here, I'd say that microlearning is focused. It is self-contained learning that targets one specific outcome at a time. And before we go any further, let's clear up what microlearning is not, because frankly, I think that it's as important as knowing what it is. Microlearning is not just slicing up a long course into smaller bits, something I actually see quite often. That's like tearing chapters out of a novel and calling each one a short story. It just doesn't work that way, right? And one more important thing, microlearning is not meant to replace all other forms of learning. Just because some skills do require time, immersion, some deeper practice. And if you think of microlearning as something new, I'd say it's not new because you definitely use microlearning all the time yourselves. For example, when a colleague shows you a keyboard shortcut, that's microlearning. Or when you watch some YouTube video how to fix something at home, again, microlearning. So what makes it work in those moments? First, it solves your problem. And when I say problem, I actually don't mean something, dramatic or something broken. It could be just a blind spot. Something the learner doesn't even realize could be done better. We don't know what we don't know, right? But microlearning works best when it helps shift something, a habit, a perspective, some tiny piece of behavior. Overall, some kind of problem. Second, microlearning should be focused. When your colleague shares something about Excel, it's not everything about Excel. It's about how to create a pivot table. And last but not least, microlearning should be actionable. You should be able to apply it right away or probably later, but there should be some actionable component. Let me bring this to life with a quick example. Imagine a department head wants to help faculty handle tough student conversations. A full workshop might be too much, right? Especially during some busy semester. Instead, how about creating a concise 3-minute guide people can review right before those moments? It respects their time. It gives them just-in-time support when it actually matters. It makes sense, doesn't it? Or another example. A student organization needs to train event volunteers quickly. So what can we do here? A traditional course in a learning management system, probably buried there forever, does not really feel like the right fit. Because volunteers need something quick, something easy, something accessible right in the moment, and obviously not a 20-minute module they will forget before the event even starts. Actually, that's true story. And think about, in contrast, a bite-sized check-in guide those volunteers can glance at while setting up. Just a few taps, some very clear, actionable steps, maybe a quick interactive tip or two, no fluff, just something these people need exactly when they need it. And that's actually microlearning doing its job. So let's do a quick recap, micro recap, if you wish. What makes microlearning actually work? First of all, it addresses a real problem. It helps shift something. Then it's focused. One goal, one idea, one outcome, very clear. It's not a chapter, it's not a course, just the thing. And right about, I know you are probably wondering, so how short is short enough? Different experts actually say different things. Some say 5-10 minutes. I'd probably say that 5-7 minutes is usually the sweetest spot. But from my experience, if it's all relevant, if the learner gets why it matters, even 10-15 minutes can work. My personal rule of thumb here would be give them just enough to understand, to act, and to be able to get back to work. And finally, microlearning should be actionable. You don't just learn something, you should be able to use it, in most cases right away. Now, we hopefully understand what microlearning looks like, but there is the thing where I see many organizations, many teams go sideways, even really smart and experienced teams. They get all excited about microlearning. They just dive into building content, slides, videos, voiceovers, quizzes, you name it. But they skip the single most important step, diagnosing the behavior. What specific behavior are we trying to change with our learning initiative? What's the cost if nothing changes? What's actually stopping this behavior right now? I'm coming from the learning development consulting space, and these are the first questions that I asked myself when diving into projects. If you are not clear on that, if the iceberg beneath the surface is fuzzy, then no content, no matter how polished, no matter how short, how sweet it is, it just won't stick. Content is just, the shiny tip of the iceberg. But the real way sits below. Clarity about the behavior, the barriers, and the why. Of course, my cough picked today to shine. Inside for a second while I reset. So let me show you what this looks in practice. Let's say you need to roll out new data privacy protocols for researchers or for external contractors. A second. Excuse me 1 more second, please. So you need to roll out some data privacy protocols for researchers and external partners. On the left, you can see the typical approach, the one that I often see from our corporate clients. I just reimagined it for your context. Hopefully that sounds familiar to you. Like, it could be highly likely a 90-minute compliance webinar. Good luck getting attendance. There should be some PDF guide. There should be some quiz that in many cases tests memory, but not real-world application. What I would suggest to start with here, if you think, for example, about applying microlearning or just becoming more effective with your learning intervention, is to identify first the specific behavior. For example, in our situation, as I see it, It could be handling data correctly in daily research tasks. Then you need to identify the barrier, right? Something we mentioned on the previous slide. I may be wrong again, that's not the situation I typically work with, but it could be that people just don't realize how the policy applies to them. And then the why. My quick guess would be that if data is mishandled, then the research and trust can be compromised. So once you've got that clarity, something beneath the iceberg, you probably would want to design content like this. Some short, probably 2-3 minute video explainer on why this matters in their work. Some role-specific microcourses. Only what exactly each group needs to know. Yes, this means some extra work designing for particular groups, but this is the relevance you provide people with, and thus you get real engagement, not something coming from, clicky, flashy, something that's the smart kind of engagement. Then you'd probably reinforce with some scenario like, what would you do if? And of course, some actionable component like practical checklists they can refer to in the moment. And yes, this kind of approach consistently drives better engagement. Why? Because it feels relevant. It's actually relevant. People can sell it. And here's where AI gets really interesting. We've all seen the rush. Almost every e-learning platform tool now has that quick content generation feature. Basically, ChatGPT Lite built right in. And everything's positioned as faster, easier, instant innovation everywhere. But here's the question we should be asking. Do we really need more content? Or do we need more effective learning? Learning that's quicker for us to create so we can respond faster to our organizational needs. And learning that's quicker for learners to absorb and apply. That's the final goal of any learning activity. At 7Tabs, we took a different path. We launched 7Tabs in December 2020, and at that time, we became the first tech company to offer an AI-powered microlearning builder. But we didn't lead with AI-powered in our messaging. We deliberately chose not to. Because as I see it, no one really cares what's under the hood. AI or not AI, it just should be something that makes the tool help people do their job better. And for us, every product decision comes back to one simple question. Will this feature help someone create learning that actually changes behavior? That's what led us and me personally, because that's my project, to build our microlearning copilot. It's not a content generator. It's like a thought partner. It challenges vague goals. It helps you define the real behavior to target. And here's the magic. The more experience you bring, the more it amplifies it. Copilot does not replace you. It extends your impact. And honestly, that's exactly what I believe any good AI should do. Not create content for the sake of it, not replace your judgment, but help you think clearer, more faster, and amplify the expertise you already bring to the table. And that's what Copilot was actually built to support. So let's make this real. Let's say you are launching a cross-functional research initiative, something completely new. And you are noticing some misalignment. Like people assume they work the same way, but in fact, they don't. You obviously could run some long session, some webinar on collaboration to help them actually align. But my suggestion would be to create a focused microlearning with the help of 7Tabs Copilot. Normally, I'd walk you through this live, but frankly, I'm not that natural multitasker, just to type and talk at the same time. So instead of live typing, I've laid out all the Copilot flow as short slide series here, and each screen you'll see is exactly what the tool asks you. And at the end, I'll show you the actual result that Copilot produced based on the inputs we'll be discussing. Again, here's what we're solving. A cross-functional team, diverse ways of working, and a need of quick alignment. Our goal, as I see it, is to build clarity and shared understanding, right? So let's see how we can tackle this with 7Tabs Copilot. Here's the first and most important question. And just how I get into the Copilot mode, you head to 7Tabs, click Create, and you'll see the Copilot from the start. Very simple. The first step, the Copilot will ask you about what's the one thing you want people to actually do better. Not a topic of your course, not a theme, a behavior. So instead of writing things like teamwork or collaboration, I've put here setting clear communication expectations at the start of a project. It's specific, it's observable, it's actually something you can design for. If, for example, you are working on some broader topic, say, given feedback, just try to zoom in. Is it about responding to poor performance? Is it about delivering peer feedback? Is it about probably running post-project reviews? That's very important to find out that clarity, because later it will make everything easier for you and more effective for your learner. The next question is, who is this microlearning for? And actually, this step matters more than people typically think. In our example, I wrote that it's for researchers and project leads and interdisciplinary teams. They are not working, they're not new to working with others, but probably something that I should add, they need some tool to realign faster. Why given so much details here? And probably there are some details that should have been added here as well. But since that imaginary situation, I didn't dive deeper into it. The context shapes the tone, the examples, and the cards the Copilot will finally generate. Then I've set my learners as mid-career, intermediate skill level. And that's actually also important. If you say beginner, but they are not, you risk sounding condescending. Vice versa, if you say advanced too soon, you might skip some foundational stuff they still need. The scenario I came across quite often is when our users ask me, why cannot I choose all the career stages and all the skill levels here? Because it won't work, because you'll get a piece of content that is for everyone and finally designed for nobody. So try to get at least that personalized as the Copilot asks you. Then what should learners be able to do after this microlearning? This is about outcomes. And instead of something vague like improve team communication, I've written line expectations on tools, timelines, response norms before a project begins. It's something that you can picture someone finally doing. It's practical. To answer this question, again, coming from my consulting background, I would suggest thinking about what would success look like if someone did this right tomorrow. And, just for the record, I'm walking you through this using 7 tabs. But this kind of thinking works in any format. And even if you are, I don't know, drafting an instructional email, or probably you work in any other platform, or I don't know, creating any PDF, thinking this way will definitely help your learners get it faster and applying your knowledge more easily. Now we shift to barriers. What's really getting in the way? Just avoid generic stuff like they are too busy, because it won't give the copilot a hint. In this case, I've written, people skip expectation setting conversations. They assume others work the same way and end up frustrated when they don't. Why understanding and highlighting the challenge actually matters. From my experience, if you don't understand, if you don't name the challenge, the training won't land. Learners will either ignore it or think, oh, this does not apply to me. Then why? Why now? What's happening around this? This step roots the course in real life. You can see my input. This is part of a cross-campus initiative with lots of departments involved, and we are seeing friction, not because people aren't committed, but because they're misaligned from day one. This question, what's happening around this, is gold. It connects the learning to a current pain point. You could also write here, there is a big policy change coming, or turnover has created inconsistency in onboarding. Even one line of context gives the copilot much better grounding. And finally, how many courses? This one's fast. I'm picking one course because that's just like just-in-time moment right before project kickoff, and I don't think the learner needs a series. They need, a spark. But if you're building habits or reinforcing something over time, choose 3, 4, 5. 7 tabs, well, send them out according to your schedule automatically. That's very easy to set up. All right, now what the Copilot has created. Actually, these are the cuts from the real course I got from entering the inputs we discussed. Now you can scan the QR code with your mobile device and dive into that experience yourself. I assume you will have my slides, so here's the link you can also check out later. And actually, quick heads up, if you try the exact same prompts later, you might get slightly different results. That's just how the Copilot works. Every time you run it, it builds the experience from scratch. It's based on the inputs and what it understands as relevant in that exact moment. So hopefully all of you who wanted to scan it have done this just for the sake of presenting and having everything on one screen. I'm getting back to this slide. Is this a finished masterpiece? Not necessarily. You might want to add something, you might want to delete a card, probably to rearrange something, or even rewrite a whole piece in your own tone. And highly likely, your prompt in a similar situation will be more thoughtful than mine, because I built this around some imaginary use case. Well, you definitely know what matters in your work. But what I already love in this format, even from this first draft, you already get a course that's relevant from the start. The opening video card grounds the learner in why this matters. It's structured, it's clear. One card, one idea. And it's just not saying you communicate better. It breaks down what to align. It's very human. It's very approachable. The tone is conversational. As you can see, the final cards include steps to apply. Plus, there is a confidence check that can give you real signals. Do they feel ready? Do they need a follow-up? Or probably some additional resource? So here's my challenge to you. Next time someone asks you to create training, or probably when you will be thinking about creating some training, just pause for a minute. Start with these 3 questions. What's the one behavior that would make the biggest difference if you can identify it? Why is this behavior hard right now? What does success look like in the smallest and clearest way? Think one moment, one action, one shift. When you can answer these questions, you don't just need content. You need learning that works. You have a clear roadmap of how to get it. And microlearning might be exactly what you need. And if you want to go deeper, on April 23rd, I'll be running a hands-on workshop where we dive together into the learning science behind microlearning, one of my favorite topics. We'll explore the most common pitfalls and learn how to avoid them. We'll unpack how to design effective microlearning experiences from scratch, not just one standalone micro course, but the whole experiences with communication strategy behind. Because, the content is just a small piece of the learning experience. It should be supported. There should be some activities that enhance and amplify that experience. We'll unpack how to pilot, how to iterate, and of course, the most important question, how to measure what success really looks like. Beyond completion rates, because they are not the only things that you need to monitor. According to my plan, by the end, you will walk away with a real prototype ready to share. So that's it from me for today. I hope this session gave you a new perspective on microlearning. It's not just about doing things faster. It's mainly about doing the right things for the right reasons and at the right time. And trust me, if it's clear, if it's focused, if it's timely, it will make a difference. I'll be sticking around for any questions, thoughts, or even your own microlearning war stories. So far, I want to share with you a few resources. We have a great Microlearning Pro community. I try to post there regularly and share some step-by-step resources on behavioral change activities, on how you actually could launch your microlearning programs on some interested applications of microlearning like scavenger hunts. So feel free to connect. It's absolutely free. And I know that lots of questions actually come up when you try to do something, to apply something. So if not now, but later you would like to chat with me, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn. I'm also quite active there, sharing lots of practical resources. And of course, try 7 tabs with our special offer. you'll get 5 months license of 7 tabs. Just drop Stanford in the product support chat. Actually, in our product support chat, there are no robots, only real people answering. So if you need support, advice, tip, or even some inspiration, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We operate in different time zones. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. I just don't want how to access it. Happy to help.
Thank you very much, Kate. And I see some questions are coming into the chat. First one here from Anna says, in a software platform setup where users complete online training, practice in the sandbox, and then transition to live use, how can we strategically utilize microlearning to bridge the time gap, reinforce learning, and ensure effective application of newly acquired skills?
Let me just scan this question again, because I guess there's no quick answer to it. Well, the easiest and the clearest scenario would be to create spaced reinforcement microlearning activities that actually support people throughout the implementation process. Because again, your online training can be absolutely great. People can practice a lot, but when it comes to transitioning skills to life, people need to be advised on something, or sometimes to get those, boosters about what they learned previously. And with that reinforcement activity, you actually don't just remind them of what they learned previously in the full-fledged initial training, but you provide some advanced scenarios, probably some unexpected situations they may face. It would be great if you have some real source of questions people have throughout the implementation process, so that you can build on that. And for example, with 7 tabs, there are checklists and submit and form cards available. Thus, you can get feedback from people about how's it going, and then kind of put it into the microlearning experience that supports them after all. I think that the best thing about microlearning here is that you can iterate fast. You can actually see where people really struggle and put it into action, because on paper, every great problem, every great project, training activity could look great, and you may think you try to foresee everything, but when it comes to real life, lots of unexpected pitfalls may occur. So with the help of microlearning, you just keep your hand on the pulse of what's really happening in the team, where they need extra support, and you build your support upon it. I also
Thank you.
see
Sorry, go ahead.
about accessibility. Since last year, we've built a lot. That's, I'd say, a really long and probably continuous journey. So you should recheck what has changed. And, we have all the main accessibility points addressed already. Screen readers, all the I'm sorry, it's just late time in my time zone plus my throat, so I'm maybe just sounding a bit robotic right now. We have all the alternative texts, closed captions. If you'd like to get deeper, feel free to book a chat with our team, and we'll just guide you through what's new in 7 tabs. Hopefully it will now work better in terms of your needs and aspirations. I know the accessibility is a huge thing, but it's at the same time something really challenging because, for example, when it comes to screen readers, there are so many screen readers in the world, and while we, for example, keep up on supporting, let's say, 100, there is some 101 that we don't ever see, and that's a problem. Can you use 7 tabs if you have your own content that you want it to draw from for the microlearning? Not sure I got you right, Sharon, but in 7 tabs we have microlearning transformer. You can actually put your files there and get a recap that you can use as a reinforcement material. And the next version of the Copilot, it's coming really soon, hopefully in 2-3 weeks, will allow you to add to the Copilot your existing files, and it will serve as the ground for it to create content for you.
If I can add on to that, one thing that I've used 7tabs for is uploading my own PowerPoint presentation. And the 7tabs tool was able to take the topics inside the PowerPoint and create the microlearning course for you based upon those topics.
I also see a great question. When learning a new behavior, how many repetition reinforcement based on research before it becomes a habit? Again, it's probably a topic for another talk. It's really deep, and it depends on the complexity of that behavior and on how often your learner will actually need to apply it. For example, if we speak about some new software rollout, during the implementation process, you need to reinforce more often, probably once in 2 days throughout first 2-3 weeks. Then you just extend that reaching out process. It could be once per 2 weeks, and you support people throughout the first 3 months to ensure they are confident enough when, using that software. If we speak about something really complex, just nothing comes to my mind quickly, then half the year reinforcement with additional practice, with additional scenarios, with additional check-ins to see how people actually utilize that knowledge, how they go through the skill application may be needed. The general rule is to reinforce often throughout the first weeks, and they just see how confident people become with that. Sometimes when people are already familiar, when they are kind of in the loop, you may notice that you may stop. You just need to, I don't know, reinforce later in 3-5 months just to check in and see how it's going, and that will be enough. If you are interested, please drop me a line on LinkedIn. I have a great resource about how the reinforcement should look like, with lots of formulas, with lots of examples, and hopefully you will find something similar that you will be able to apply. Why did you choose to have the tool generate AI talking heads? What data was the tool trained on in order to generate this kind of video output? Well, that's a great question. In 7tabs, we have integration with Synthesia. The initial idea of integrating this AI talking heads feature came out of the experience of producing real videos when you need to go through all the production cycles, and if something changes, you need to go through them again and again. And my vision for microlearning is that it's not only something that your people consume quickly, but something you can update quickly. It's something that lets you experiment, to iterate, to improve as you go. And those AI technology, that AI technology is actually really helpful. But having said that, I'm not a huge fan of, delivering all the content through AI talking heads. Sometimes for storytelling techniques, for dropping in some example, for differentiating the experience, it's a good idea. But of course, the good experience, learning experience, is always a mix of experiences. And sometimes even the clear action plan with, I don't know, 3, 5 action points would be way more effective than super duper creative video or any other media. Um, well, actually, we don't have any data the tool was trained on. It's just the feature we integrated, and according to what I hear from our clients, when they use it smartly, thoughtfully, something I do advise them to do, they see great feedback. They just feel more flexibility in terms of how they create their content. But again, when you want to make something resonating, relevant, something your learners can really trust, AI video is not the best option for you, because it will always be fake. People will see that. So you should be very, very careful in terms of how often you utilize this feature. There is a free version of 7 tabs available that includes limited access to the tool. Well, Dan, actually, we've just upgraded the free version of 7 tabs. It has almost all, or probably all, content creation features. It provides you with the ability to share, as far as I remember, 2 courses. So you can pilot, you can see how it works. The paid version just offers more customization, more kind of more abilities to create learning experiences rather than micro-learning content. For example, you can create and launch learning paths. You can integrate 7 tabs to your learning ecosystem. You can get advanced reporting. But again, if you want to just play around with the tool, the free version is absolutely capable of providing you with a really great experience.
If I may, there was a question about the 7 tabs and integrating with the Stanford Playground. Question from Eve said, is 7 tabs inside of Stanford Playground, so we may be confident that original/unpublished data and PowerPoint slides are not pushing the cloud outside of Stanford boundaries. So when it comes to working with tools, whether you're using something outside of Stanford, it will be saved up in the cloud where it is secure underneath the 7 tabs or within the 7 tabs website. But you can also, and we can talk a little bit about this a little bit later on, you're able to take what you've created and export it as a PDF afterwards. And I mentioned earlier about uploading my PowerPoint slides. And when you do create something inside of 7 tabs, you have a couple different options. One being that you can have the AI help walk you through, create the micro learning. And another one is created from scratch. And another one is to upload your PowerPoint presentation, which will then take the topics from the PowerPoint and add it into the 7 tabs itself. The Stanford Playground, Eve is referring to the AI Stanford Playground, which is available. I'll put the link inside the chat for you. But this includes access to tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc., There's also a secure GPT, which allows for high-risk data that's available through Stanford Healthcare for anybody with a Stanford Summit ID. I will post both the links for those inside the chat for you as well. But let us know if there's any other follow-up questions. And Kate, if you can talk a little bit more about anything I may have missed when it comes to creating or it comes to exporting.
First of all, I should say that all the content you create in 7tabs only stays in your account, and only you decide with whom to share it. Nobody else can see it. When it comes to sharing options, again, that's a great question, because microlearning is not about the content. Microlearning is always about experiences. It's not about providing your learners with something short. It's also about providing that via the right channel, so that there could be really almost no barriers, no friction in order them to go through your content. That's why we actually have a variety of sharing methods. Actually, you've noticed there was a QR code you can scan with your mobile device, and you go just straight to the course yourself. That's the learner experience in 7tabs. You can share a simple link again in any channel, or put it in the email or a PDF, depends on what you're sharing. You can share via email, you can share via messengers like WhatsApp, you can share via MS Teams, Slack. 7tabs allows for SCORM export, so that you can put that package into your learning management system. Frankly, not my favorite thing to do, since the beauty of 7tabs is when, again, there is no friction between you and your learner, while all the extra clicks, they actually decrease the engagement level, to be honest. With 7tabs, we try to be as fast as possible when it comes to reaching your learner. So it really depends on what kind of activity you try to integrate your microlearning into, on where your learners are. For example, I just integrated microlearning into my session. You scan the QR code, you dive into that microlearning piece. You now have this on your mobile browser, you can get back to it. And one of my favorite and the most effective methods of sharing 7tabs experience, microlearning experience, is through 7tabs learning paths. That's the feature that is based on spaced learning. You can set the schedule, you can add custom sharing methods, you can share those microlearning assets spread over time, again, via any channels. And that just automates the delivery process, while you get the statistics inside 7tabs, or you can send the data to a learning record store. The tool is really flexible. We tried not to cover everything and to address, again, everything. We try to understand what are the most effective ways of delivering the just-in-time, very accessible and snackable type of learning experiences, and what could be the channels and the ways to reach out to your learners where they are.
2154.
There was a question came up about the interactive polls, and it says, how about interactive polls embedded inside the product? Example, Mentimeter versus less interactive polling systems.
We don't have integrations like Mentimeter. We have 7tabs is based on pre-designed cards. There are various groups of cards. There are information presentation cards, like those with text or video or audio. There are knowledge check cards or assessment with interactivity like quizzes, polls, forums. People can actually see how others voted if you add that poll card right into microlearning. We also have cards like Submit, where you can ask your learner to either submit a voice message, for example, practicing on some soft skills, like how would you respond in this situation? Just imagine you are dealing with that kind of situation. What would you say? Just record a voice message. They can submit pictures. They can, there is a rate card so that they can rate, for example, that microlearning experience they got. They can rate their confidence level. Just it comes down to your creativity. You can attach a card with various buttons. I actually deliberately didn't go through that during this session because I didn't want it to turn into, sales machine trying to teach you how the software works and all the buttons and everything. I wanted to give you some strategy that could be actually applied no matter what kind of tool you are using. And if you are interested in utilizing 7 tabs, learning more, hopefully you are, feel free to meet with us. No strings attached. We are happy to show you around how the platform works, what are the best options in terms of your own scenario. Because again, the tool is flexible, and one of the reasons I really advise to book a call with our representative is not just to, afterwards being chased by a salesperson asking you to buy something, but to understand how the platform actually can help you solve something. Because once we hear your own context, your own situation, we can advise more precisely what features you actually need, what plan you need, and what could be the most helpful to you based on what we heard from other clients. We have lots of companies, organizations from various spaces using 7 tabs. The tool is relatively new. As far as I mentioned, we launched it in December 2020, but we quickly became #1 microlearning platform according to the reviews and user satisfaction. And still we are ranked the #1, developing the product according to what we hear from our clients and according to what's happening in the world, what trends, not trends probably, but what technologies appear that we could integrate into 7 tabs to amplify its effect. Because again, as I mentioned, it's not the technology that should be in the first line, but the value that the product delivers to you. You don't need to care whether it's AI powered or not AI powered, as long as it really helps you do your job.
We have
Can the
one last question here, and go ahead.
Can the platform be designed to teach patients new skills? Yes, we actually, frankly speaking, among our user base, healthcare organizations probably are most common using 7 tabs. And yes, it is used for kind of a patient's education, for healthcare staff education. This is the environment that actually benefits probably the most from mobile first access, something quick, something accessible, something that can be created, updated quickly. So yes, see you in 7 tabs, and we are happy to tell you more. I'm personally happy to tell you more. Thank you so much for joining today. It was really a pleasure.